The Big 12 is known for its spectacular offense and bad defense. With that being said, they produce a lot of fun quarterbacks and big-time players who put up big numbers and become household names. A few months ago, I made a video about what happened to every SEC team's best quarterback in recent memory, and today we're going to continue that series talking about the Big 12. By recent memory, I mean in the last decade, and a player who is currently not playing. But before we get started, be sure to hit that like button to support the channel, subscribe to both this channel and my basketball channel, suggest what team, conference, or coach I should do next, and turn on post notifications so you never miss when I upload. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about every team's best quarterback in recent memory from the Big 12. For Oklahoma, you actually have a few options, as Landry Jones, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, and Kyler Murray all had great seasons, and Spencer Rattler will definitely be a star here soon. But we have to go with the guy who was there the longest and did the most damage, Baker Mayfield. He grew up in Austin, Texas, but was a fan of the Sooners while his dad played for Houston. He blossomed into a great high school football quarterback, but he had to settle on becoming a walk-on for Texas Tech. In his freshman year, he absolutely blew up and was so good that he decided to transfer to Oklahoma. After sitting out a year, he threw for nearly 15,000 yards with 131 touchdowns while leading the Sooners to the playoff and bringing home the Heisman Trophy. He became the number 1 overall pick to the Cleveland Browns, and in 2020, he put it all together and led them to the playoffs where they beat the Steelers in their first game. Everyone knows Baker Mayfield, and let me know who you guys think is the best quarterback in Oklahoma football history. Oklahoma State had Brandon Weeden at the beginning of the decade, but the best quarterback in recent memory is definitely Mason Rudolph. Some of you guys probably know Mason as the guy whose head was smashed in by Myles Garrett, but he was a star in college. He grew up in South Carolina and would throw for nearly 11,000 yards in high school en route to becoming a 4-star recruit. He chose to take his talents to Oklahoma State and came in as the third-string guy. After injuries to Dax Garman and J.W. Walsh, he started the final 3 games of the season and was the future of the program. He would start in the next 3 years for the Cowboys, throwing for over 4,000 yards in his final 2 years with the team. He finished with nearly 14,000 yards and 90 touchdowns and won the Johnny Unitas Award and was a second-team All-American. He was drafted in the 3rd round with the 76th overall pick to the Steelers and was in a backup role. When Big Ben went down, he got a chance to start some games, but he is best known for getting hit in the head by Myles Garrett. I feel like Mason doesn't get all the recognition he deserves and will go down as one of the best Cowboys quarterbacks ever. Baylor's most notable quarterback is Robert Griffin III, but that was nearly 10 years ago, and I wanted to highlight someone who isn't talked about as much. Some people would say it's Charlie Brewer, but he is still playing right now as he will head to Utah this fall. The player we're talking about today is Bryce Petty. He is one of the weirdest college stories ever, as he waited 4 years to even play a snap at Baylor, but once he did, he was spectacular. He passed over 4,000 yards while leading the Bears to a Big 12 title, and he finished 7th in the Heisman Trophy voting. As a senior, he led them to another share of the Big 12 title, the Cotton Bowl, and finished 10th in the Heisman Trophy voting. From there, he was drafted in the 4th round of the 2014 NFL Draft by the Jets, where he actually would start a few games. His NFL career didn't last long though, and he is no longer playing. Like Rudolph, Petty is a guy who isn't talked about enough. Everyone knows Brock Purdy, and maybe you remember Seneca Wallace back in the day, but who on earth is another Iowa State quarterback who has been good, you may be asking yourself? Well, the answer is a guy who I am barely even familiar with, to be honest, and his name was Sam Richardson. Sam was the son of an Olympian and became a 3-star recruit in the high school football system of Florida. He chose Iowa State, who was a struggling program at the time, and would get a chance to play rather early. He played in 4 games as a freshman, and in 2013 he became the starter. But 2014 is when he would blow up, and he had one of the best seasons in Cyclones football history. He ended his career 2nd in touchdown passes, 3rd in passing yards, and 3rd in total offense in the Cyclones football history, and a lot of people don't really even talk about this guy. After spending a few minutes researching, I cannot find what he is up to now, but he clearly didn't make it in the NFL. This was a player I'd barely heard of, and I bet most of you haven't either, and it could be an intriguing video down the road. Texas has had a lot of good quarterbacks throughout their program's history, but the 2010s decade has been all over the place in terms of the position's production. Tyrone Swoops, Gerard Hurd, and Shane Buechele were all pegged as the saviors of the program, but all of them flamed out. I talked about Sam Ehlinger so many times on this channel, and I think we need to throw it back a few more years for this one. Unfortunately, there have not been a ton of great quarterbacks, so we're going to go with the guy who had the most promising career that ended, David Ash. I chose him over Ty Swoops and Case McCoy, and feel free to crucify my opinion if you'd like in the comment section. David Ash became a decorated quarterback from Belton, Texas, and after becoming a second-team All-State player, he committed to Mack Brown and the Texas Longhorns. He played a bit and split time with Case McCoy as a freshman, but he would finally get a shot to start as a sophomore. He started his junior year really hot, but had a concussion that messed everything up, and from there, he never regained his starting spot at Texas because he had to retire from football because of injuries. In 2017, he tried to make a comeback to the game, and he played in the Spring League. He would get a chance to go to the Panthers minicamp, but was not kept with the team, and that was basically it for him. David Ash is a guy who was going to be a big name and definitely showed a lot of promise in his time, but injuries messed everything up, and he definitely deserves his own video someday. TCU had Andy Dalton at the turn of the century and Kenny Hill in 2016 and 2017, but the star quarterback of the decade was Trevone Boykin. Originally recruited as an athlete, Boykin became the backup to Casey Pascal in 2012, but after he was suspended, Boykin would take over and did a pretty solid job, despite TCU's poor record. As a sophomore, he broke out and most notably became the first player in TCU history to have a 200-yard passing, 100-yard rushing, and 100-yard receiving game in one season. In 2014, he led them to a 12-1 season, and it looked like they were going to be in the playoff, but they got screwed because they didn't have a conference championship, and they had to settle for the Peach Bowl where they killed Ole Miss. As a senior, he was having a great season, but he got hurt before the Oklahoma game, and he couldn't get them to the playoff like he probably wanted to. He left as one of the most decorated players ever there, and has pretty much thrown his career away since though. He had substance issues, punched someone at a bar, and broke his girlfriend's jaw, and became more known for his troubles off the field than his professional career, which the only thing he really did was get signed by the Seahawks, which wasn't much. This sucked to see him go down that path, and he was truly a great player for the Horned Frogs, and someone that was very memorable in this decade of college football. For the West Virginia Mountaineers, you actually have a few more options than you probably think. Skylar Howard is the forgotten guy, but it comes down to Geno Smith and Will Grier, and I think since Will is more recent, we will go with him. Grier was a huge quarterback coming out of high school, and the 5-star talent chose the Florida Gators. He became a sensation there, but then he took a banned substance and would have to leave for a different school after he talked to Jim McElwain. West Virginia had faith in him, and after sitting out a year, he became a star in his time with the Mountaineers. He passed for nearly 8,000 yards while he was there, and even was a trendy Heisman pick for a while. He was drafted in the 3rd round with the 100th overall pick by the Panthers, and has actually started a few games, but he looked awful, and we may already be nearing the end of his career. Be sure to check out my video about him, and I'll leave a link down in the comment section. Will Grier was a really special player, and one of my favorite quarterbacks to ever play college football, and I really do hope he finds his footing. Texas Tech is a solid school at producing quarterbacks in the past, with guys like Graham Harrell, Taylor Potts, and Seth Doege, who is actually the brother of West Virginia starting quarterback Jarrett Doege. And both Davis Webb and Alan Bowman have been big names as well, but the obvious answer to this is Patrick Mahomes. Growing up a phenom athlete and the son of a baseball player, Pat Mahomes was under-recruited coming out of high school and chose Texas Tech. He was a backup to Davis Webb for a while before he began starting as a sophomore. He showed flash, but didn't really break out into a superstar until his junior year, when he threw for over 600 yards against Oklahoma and would lead the country in passing yards. He left for the NFL draft, where he blew up at the Combine and was taken by the Chiefs with the 10th overall pick. After sitting out a year, he's become an MVP, a Super Bowl champion, and the best quarterback in the league right now. Since then, Texas Tech has kind of taken a nosedive. They will have a fun battle at quarterback between Oregon transfer Tyler Shuck and highly touted freshman Baron Morton, and a make-or-break year for third-year head coach Matt Wells. Kansas State has been a good football school, but they're really only known for one guy this century, and that's Collin Klein. He was an underrated Bill Snyder gem from Loveland, Colorado, and when he got the chance to play, he became a name. He was a dual-threat star who could pass the ball and run the ball, and he helped elevate the Wildcats program to new heights. In his final year, he was the frontrunner for the Heisman Trophy until their loss to Baylor, and sadly he didn't win either the award, and the Wildcats did not make the title game like many thought they could. He left as the best quarterback in school history and would go down as a legend in the eyes of many. He tried out for the Houston Texans and even went to the CFL, but now he has since gone into coaching, where he has quickly climbed the ranks. He was the offensive coordinator for Kansas State this past year and could become a head football coach soon, and maybe someday he'll return to Kansas State. Just like in about everything football related, the last team we need to mention is Kansas. Todd Reesing was the quarterback the last time the Jayhawks were relevant, and it's been tough sledding ever since. They've had a few guys like Montel Cozart, Ryan Willis, Carter Stanley, and Peyton Bender. I'm going to go with the guy who was the biggest name and the most talented, Ryan Willis. He grew up in Overland Park, Kansas, and chose to commit to the Jayhawks over Illinois, Kansas State, and Wyoming. He started 8 games in 2015 and had some good performances for Kansas standards, but for some reason it didn't carry over to the next year. He would struggle, and then he would announce he was leaving for Virginia Tech, and actually went there as a walk-on and didn't even have a scholarship, but he had faith in himself. He worked his way up the depth chart and appeared in 2 games for the Hokies, and even helped them beat a ranked Duke team when he was filled in, and that's really about it for Willis. Kansas really didn't have a big name at all, but Jalen Daniels could finally be the next quarterback that they've been looking for, as he started as a true freshman last year. Well, that is today's video, and be sure to let me know your thoughts and if I missed anyone. Let me know what conference, position, or topic I should take a look at next. Let me know who your favorite Big 12 quarterback of all time is. Before you go, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel and my basketball channel, and check out my video, which is the exact same style for the SEC. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.